Hello viewers, welcome to another Taka Thursday. We are very happy to have you here. Please let us know where you are tuning in from. We are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, we are on Twitter, and we're just excited to have this conversation around sustainable waste management, hosted by Taka Nimali. And today we have our very special patron, Mary Ngechu, who will be telling us about what is coming up. And Mary, before I let this out of the bag, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience. For those who may not know you, let them know who Mary Ngechu is, what Taka Nimali is.
Thank you, Eve, for having me today as a patron for Taka Nimali. But allow me to also talk about Mary Ngechu today, because I am the guest. I sit in several leadership positions around. I sit in as a chair for SMEs at the Kenya Private Sector Alliance. I sit in as a chair for women in manufacturing at the Kenya Private Sector. And if you look at the space that I've talked about, these are small-scale businesses that have the hunger to scale. So I like to say that I am an entrepreneur who like to lead and hold other entrepreneurs in the space that they are in to help them to scale. Taka Nimali is an initiative that I started 2017, and this year, beginning of the year, we said that Taka Nimali this year focus is scaling. Not just scaling for Taka Nimali, but for also the other partnerships and the other innovations that we work with. How can we be able to help them to scale? Right. And I think this is where the conversation of today, you have just said that we are talking about scaling sustainable waste management.
Yes, scaling sustainable waste management across Africa. So that is the theme today at this great platform. And Mary, thank you so much for that introduction. It's good to know that where your passion is. Mary is passionate about scaling, helping other people to scale what they're passionate about, what inspires them, businesses, SMEs. That is what it is about. And now today, as we talk about scaling sustainable waste management, viewers, I'm not sure you know this, but there's something in the works. There's a big conference coming up, a regional conference, East African Conference on Sustainable Waste Management, and we are calling it Waste is Wealth. Mary, tell us about that.
Thank you, Eve, about talking about the conference that is coming. Africa, Waste is Wealth. I remember I was having this conversation when we were picking the theme of the conference, and somebody said that we are calling it Africa, Waste is Wealth. So we are saying Africa, Taka Nimali.
Exactly.
Because waste is wealth, Taka Nimali. So why are we saying that Africa, Taka Nimali? Africa, waste is wealth, because this, as we have been having the conversations and we have been doing as Taka Nimali, there are huge opportunities, not just for Kenya, but for across Africa. And when we talk about waste and saying that waste is wealth, we are talking more of the circular economy. How is it that you make sure, whether it is in your organization, in your production, that waste, you don't look at it as waste, you can be able to recycle it back into your production. So you create wealth, or you create value from what then that you would have disregarded as waste. So the conversation that we are having, and now talking about Africa, Waste is Wealth, is that we believe that we need localized solutions, because our setup is unique to us as Africans. So we need to contribute into the conversation of circular economy. So the circular economy that we are all talking about, we need to look at it and see the value in it so that we can be able to embrace it. Then we will build sustainable businesses, and we will clean up our environment in the area of taking care of the waste. So,
and Mary, just to cut you short a little bit. So when you say that our setup is different, in what way? And I know you've traveled a lot around different countries. What is it that you've picked from those countries that is probably different and that you'd want to see happen in Africa?
I'll give an example of what you've said in travels. And I've traveled, especially in the space, trying to understand the waste management. I've traveled, I've been to Germany, I've been to Turkey, I've been to the UK, I've been to Switzerland, really trying to understand how it is that they manage their waste. And I'll give an example of maybe in places like UK or Europe. If you go to the UK, if you go to any home, you will find that they have different bins that will separate the waste. Across Europe, this is the culture. is a culture that has been embedded into the livelihood of the people. So it comes from the culture that this is how we do things. So I will tell you, the generations of today in those countries, they don't even think about it because they were born and brought up in that culture. They know from home you have to separate your plastics, you have to separate your food waste so that it is easy to recycle. And those are some of, and if you look at the setup that we have in Africa, not just in Kenya but across Africa, we don't have that culture. And these are some of the models that we need to start looking into, how it is that we can bring them into our continent so that people can be conscious about separating waste at source, which then makes it easy for the recycler to recycle it. The whole value chain to coming up with another new product. From when you sort the waste at source, then you reduce the time it takes, and you also make sure that you get clean waste or clean raw material that will get into the recycling. I'll give also another example. If you go to other countries like Germany, I remember my first time I was getting a visa to travel to Germany, and at the embassy they asked me, "Oh, you manufacture plastics?" I said, "Yes." When you go to Germany, I want you to understand how they treat plastics. If you walk into a shop and you buy your drink, they have what I would call it maybe a take back scheme or a payback. You'll finish, you put your bottle in a machine, and then that machine will give you a coin. Those are models that we envision that even in the future of our country we can be able to embrace them, where that I'll walk, buy a drink, finish that, then there's a vendor machine that I can be able to put back that and get a coin out of it, or get something that will give us value. I think those are models that we have we are working with, and we are looking into how it is that we can get ourselves there. But the core thing is the culture.
Yes.
The mindset.
The culture. The
culture and the mindset.
Yes.
We have to build a culture and a mindset that make our community understand that there is value of waste. Okay. And I think this is a lot of what it is that we are doing with Taka Nimali.
And so when we talk about this upcoming conference, first of all, tell us, when is this conference happening?
Now, Africa Waste is World Conference. We are having it in the month of June, 6, 7, and 8th of June. We are celebrating that time because it's alongside where we have the World Environment Day. It's also the same time that we are having the UN Habitat General Assembly that is happening. So we have a lot of champions,
right,
and a lot of conversations that are happening around the environment. So we are thinking that is a good time that we also have the partners who we are working with, different other people who also care about the waste, to have a platform where we can also have the conversation about our environment, about climate change, because we are looking at waste management to conserve our environment, right, as a mitigation for the climate change.
And is it happening in Nairobi?
Yes, it is happening in Nairobi. We are hoping to have it at the Trademark Africa Trademark Hotel at the Village Market. And the first 2 days are heavy conversations that we are having, and the third day will be heavy on exhibition. And I'll say about the conversations that we are having, we have global experts who are coming to simply just give like an example of the models that I've talked about. Sustainable management of waste across Europe. So we have different partners we are working with. I give an example as Taka Nimali. We are heavily supported by Unilever. So we have global partners from Unilever who are coming in. We also have been supported by Ernst & Young. We have global partners from Ernst & Young who will be coming in for the conference. We have partnered now with Alliance for Science. Alliance for Science, they will also be part of the conference that we are doing, and they're also bringing global partners so that we can be able to showcase the best practice that have been done there. How did they develop that culture to a level that now you don't even think about it, is a way of living. And what's the focus of this conference? Is it East African? Is it about Kenya? Is it about Africa? What's the focus? Yes, Africa Waste is Wealth we are focusing on Africa, but you cannot start with the whole Africa as a continent. So we are going to have about 4 conferences across Africa, and the first one we are calling it the Eastern Africa. So our target is the East Africa countries. We are in partnership with the East Africa Business Council. We are also getting getting into partnership with the East Africa community so that we give it ownership of the East Africa, but we're also extending invitation to the other countries that are near East Africa.
Yes.
The islands that we have, the like of the Ethiopia, Eritrea, the countries that are near Eastern Africa, they'll be part of it. And those are the countries that we, and what are we targeting to do with the conference? I've talked about conversation. The first day will be heavy on private sector, showcasing the different models that have worked on our waste generation and waste management.
Yes.
So we want to look into, if you are, example, you're in manufacturing, from waste generation, what are different models that we can be able to work or we can be able to bring into our businesses to reduce, to manage the waste generation from our production.
Yes.
Then we are looking into, once we generate the waste from our project or from our productions, how do we manage that? So it is waste generation and waste management. So this is a heavy conversation that we are having, and we're not just looking, we are looking in different stream of waste. We'll have a whole forum that will be talking about plastics. We'll have a whole forum that will be talking about electronic waste. We'll have a whole forum that will be talking about organic waste. We'll have a whole forum that will also be talking about the health. How does that waste really affect the environment, and how is that related into our health? So that we put it in the mind of us that it is our responsibility to take care of our environment, and more so by making sure that we are not sending, or we are not taking our waste to the dump site, to the landfill. We are making sure that we are recycling that waste, and so that it remains in the loop.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, it sounds to me like this is a holistic conversation around waste generation, around waste management. What else, Mary?
So in the second day, we are talking about, what are we talking about in the second day?
You tell me.
The second day, I know that that day we are talking about innovations, and we are showcasing innovations. So the second day, we are talking about policies.
Okay.
The second day, we are talking about policies because some of the things that we would want to do, they need to have policies. So we have a lot of, we would want the private sector to be able to contribute, to have a conversation with the policymakers.
Right.
And I give an example of the policy that we are heavily going to be talking about on the second day, is the extended producer responsibility. Is guided, is a policy that is, we are being guided by the government. The government now requires that we should sort and separate our waste at source. This means a lot of things to different people.
Yes.
You remember in our last show, we had the director for waste management from the Ministry of Environment.
Yes.
And he was able to unpack the conversation of how they envision to implement.
And everybody's responsibility in terms of managing and sorting and separating waste from thought. Yes.
And if you remember, he even said that there will be fines that will be put in for those people who are not going to be part of it. So we are looking on the second day, a conversation between the policymakers and the private sector. It does not mean that this is not happening. But what are we looking at? It is happening in Kenya.
Yes.
But we would want the same model to happen in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Burundi, across East Africa.
Yeah.
So this is why we are bringing then the private sector and the policymakers for across the region, so that they have a conversation that they can have together. So that if Kenya is ahead in policy making, then Burundi can be able to run from that. So on that conversation on the second day, we then be able to come up now with policy papers, and we are currently looking into the policy gaps across the region. East Africa Business Council is working on that. We are looking into developing a white paper so that we are able to do a roadmap of policy that can really help to unlock that potential that I'm talking about in waste.
And that's what we're saying when we talk about scaling.
Yes, this is what we're talking about, scaling. Yeah. Because we are saying scaling is from production in generation. How can we reduce, what methods can we put in our organizations, in our production processes to reduce the generation of waste? Then what other alternative raw materials can we put in our production so that we get raw material or waste that is easy to recycle? And I give an example from generation. We've been having conversation. Look, if you have a product in packaging that is not mixed of different raw material, it then means that that product would be able to immediately go direct to recycling. And I'll quote an example that was given by one of our partner, Petco, when we were having a conversation on a Twitter space, and we talked about an example like Coca-Cola. If you look at what Coca-Cola has done, they have moved their Sprite soda from being green to clear. What that does, it helps production, it helps in recycling, that you can now easily recycle the clear bottle than the green bottle. So those are the conversations that we'll be having from the waste generation. Because from production, the way you're making decision of your production will inform how much waste or how easy the waste that comes out of it is recyclable. So when you talk about now the information, the policy, it is the policy that will guide. Do we now say that we want everybody who is using a bottle to have clear bottles?
Right.
So there's policy conversation on what works, because sometimes there are other technical, I don't want to get very technical, there are other elements that make a manufacturer or a producer to pack a product with maybe a colored bottle.
Yes.
Whether it is protection from the UV lights and all that. But then there will be a conversation between the producer and the policy, so that we make policy can really work, and they can help us to recycle, because we want to recycle 100%.
Exactly. And so,
if it is possible.
And so, Mary, maybe for our viewers' sake, so why is it then important to have this conversation at the East African level, hence the conference?
Now, it is important to have this conversation at the East Africa level. And I'll give a simple example of investments. Imagine an investor who would want to invest into production or recycling that will give us a product. Sometimes you realize that investment decisions, and I have said that before, will be informed by several things, including the input of your raw material. So here, the input of the raw material of this investor is waste. So this investment may require more waste than what is available in Kenya. So we need to have a conversation across East Africa so that we can be able to aggregate and transport, make it easy to move waste from one country to another country. Plastic is highly recyclable, but the investments of the production of plastics requires heavy investment. For any investor to be able to make that investment, you need to have surety that if Kenya cannot give me enough plastics, I can be able to pull the plastics from Uganda, I can be able to pull the plastics from Rwanda, I can be able to pull the plastic from East. We will generate our waste. This waste, we are asking the collectors the waste collectors, they may not be able to scale into producing bottle to bottle or making chairs from plastics or making blocks. But if we have many investors who have invested in making, I give an example of construction material from recycled plastic, what that means is that we enlarge their market of where. So the more plastic that they collect, they have enough market for that. Then if they are helped to understand what then this investor or investments require, it then means that they are able to separate their waste, they are able to prepare that waste to maximize value of how it is that they can get. I'll give an example again on the plastic value chain. When you are doing recycling, there are a lot of steps that you do, from separating the waste, from crushing the waste, from cleaning that waste, to then processing it, to adding other actives so that you bring it into almost the original value to come up with a product. So if a bit of that is taken back to the collectors, an example, just the cleaning, the shredding, it then makes work easy for the person who is recycling, and it will be attractive for that recycler to buy this at a high cost. So we are putting together on the third day innovations that can be scaled across the value chain of plastics, organic waste. Another example of briquettes. We are all saying that we want to plant trees, but we don't want to plant trees and yet cut them for firewood. So we need to have alternative way that we can be able to fire our cooking and all that. We can embrace the technology of making briquettes. And part of what we are showcasing is when you're making briquettes, maybe there are small machineries that you require. There are many groups that can be able to do that, but they need to be equipped with the skills to be able to do that. They also need to be equipped with the finances to buy the small machineries that they can be able to buy. So in our innovation, we are showcasing those innovations, and we are putting together a pool of technical assistance to support them. In the room, we'll have different people who have different facilities or different resources. They could be machinery. We have machinery people who will be understanding in the machineries that can be used. We'll have people with money who can be able to give them money to put together the machineries that they require. We are also going to be having local machine makers. We have different groups in Kenya that are making machines, small machines that can reduce the process or can improve the efficiency of the processes from the collection. And we'll be having them in the room. So it is important that the youth who are out there with innovations, and the innovations, I mean, they cut across, whether they're in plastics, whether they're in briquettes, whether it is what we are making, we are talking about now, organic manure or organic fertilizer, using the black soldier flies. It is important that we come in. We are able to harness them and also learn what the others are doing, because I believe skills you learn by seeing what the others are doing. Then you see where your gaps are. Then you get help to be capacity building, so that you can be able to improve yourself.
So what you're saying, Mary, is that this is your conference, dear viewer. This is your conference. All of you out there who are passionate, who are working around sustainable waste management, come to the conference, listen to the experts, listen to the policy decisions, listen, and most importantly, bring your innovations to be showcased in this conference. Now, Mary, I know all of this ties in with climate mitigation.
Yes.
Waste is one of the biggest contributors to emissions, carbon emissions. Is this, and I know Kenya will be hosting the Africa Climate Summit. How is this linked? Is there any link? Do you see any link at all?
Now, I think the conference for us is the birth of a longer journey. And what I mean by a birth of a longer journey is we will pool partnerships of those innovations that we are getting through the conference.
Right.
And after this, maybe I'll say that we will be rolling out interest of showcasing and exhibiting in the innovation. We'll be asking you to give us just a brief explanation of your innovations, so that we're able to shortlist and we showcase you. What we intend is that the same innovations that we'll see, that they can scale. We have a program to capacity build them, and prepare them for the climate change, for the Africa Summit climate change that will be in September. We also envision that we will take them all the way to COP28, because unless we put our synergy together, if we are too small, we'll never get to COP28. And we need to start building our pipeline so that we can take our voice there. So we are gonna, after the conference, create a harmonized collaboration of the innovations that we would want to take there, of our voice in policy that we would want to influence in how the policies are being done. And they could be even from literally as in influencing even from our own county. So I think it is a collaboration. It is the birth of a longer journey. And from the conference, we also envision that we're going to have different programs. We have different partners that we also have put online together. We have a program that will run for the next 3 years up to 2025 after the conference. And we already have partners on board for those programs that we run. More of them in capacity building and equipping in terms of those small machineries that I'm talking about for different groups that we will be exhibiting during the conference. So it is important that you show up for the conference so that we start this journey together, because we do not want to capacity build you without you. So show up, we start this journey together during the conference, and we grow it. Also, for other development partners, we are building for them a pipeline, a space that we have different scalable business model around waste management, not just for Kenya, but for across Africa. We shall have companies that are coming, other innovations that are coming from West Africa. We have innovations that are coming from South Africa. We have another that is coming from Zimbabwe. We have another innovation that is coming from Ghana and also from Botswana.
Right.
So we want to showcase those innovations across other African countries. What are they doing? Come, be on board and learn what they are doing. Also, when we are going to West Africa, we will carry Kenyan innovation to West Africa so that then West Africa can also be able to learn from that.
Yes.
So we want to learn from African innovation.
And that is what we mean by scaling it across Africa.
Yes.
Scaling the innovations, the best practices across Africa.
Yes.
Now, Mary, finally, tell us, sustainability is at the center.
Yes.
On this platform, we talk about sustainable waste management. That is really our course here. So where does sustainability come in? Will there be any conversations around sustainability?
Yes, we have on the day 3 morning, we have conversation around sustainability for organizations, and we are doing that in partnership. We already have a partnership, MOU partnership with the UN Global Compact, and UN Global Compact will be helping us to put through that conversation. What are we looking into? We are having, and we want to come up with what we are calling sustainable CEO champions. We will also be launching that during the conference. And sustainability is a journey. It is not one day. So we will be looking into organizations that have good practice. How can they be able to showcase and tell us the steps that they have taken us, because they are leading the conversation, so that the other organizations can be able to follow. They can be able to hold other organizations that are keen and would want to embrace sustainability. So we'll be having conversations with organizations that already have taken lead in sustainability and organizations that are keen on taking that journey of sustainability. We have different programs that we are working together with the UN Global Compact in supporting and hand-holding the organizations that are embracing sustainability.
Right.
And we are again saying that on that particular day, we'll be launching what we are calling our CEO Sustainability Champions, so that we can be able to have it as a model that we can be able again to embrace sustainability in our organizations.
Wow.
Yes.
Are there individual champions? Can we line up to be individual champions?
You need to be on that conference so that you see the champions that we are having.
Okay.
Yes, we have them lined up.
Wow.
But as time goes by, we will unveil who they are.
Yes.
But you need to be in the conference. You need to be on the table to have these conversations.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, you need to be on the table. It's a big conference coming up from 6th to 8th of June, and we welcome you all. Thank you so much for paying attention and being with us during this Taka Thursday. We look forward to having you next time. And keep tweeting, keep sharing. See you next time.
Capacity building programs. TTNM is founded on 4 main pillars, which include strategic partnerships and alliances, capacity building, the waste management ecosystem, and the digital platform. This helps in propelling our organizational values and goals for providing a better future for our communities and environment, using our impact strategies for growth and entrepreneurship in waste management, and also building a platform that provides sustainability through a framework of networks connecting all points and services of waste management, thus enhancing growth in the sector. B. The TTNM capacity building programs. Since the establishment of Taka Nimali in 2017, we have formulated short and valuable programs run through trainings, action programs, and community-based activities that provide the communities and corporates with the opportunity to actively participate in sustainable waste management practice. While focusing on the circular economy, waste management and social entrepreneurship, we seek to establish new industries, investments, and jobs through our capacity building programs. These programs focus on training corporates, industries, and organizations on circular economy, sustainable waste management practice, as well as EPR and ESG compliance. During training, data is one of the key deliverables that we urge corporates and those we train to keep, as this comes in handy in creating CSR reports and showing compliance for proper waste management as an organization. Many receptors to these programs have attested to the fact that their staff are now able to segregate waste and assume individual responsibilities to ensure waste is managed properly at the workplace. Through open circular economy and sustainability workshops, webinars, and other events, staff members of various organizations get to understand their role towards ensuring circularity. Other areas of focus during our capacity building programs includes governance in circularity, corporate sustainability, corporate finance, sustainable investing, insurance, and banking, among many others. See the TTNM LMS. This is a developed custom user-friendly e-learning platform that serves the learning and training needs of our target stakeholders through well-content and learning materials. TTNM has innovated a learning management system, that is LMS, that acts as the platform for capacity programs on SWM and sustainability, targeted at partners to enhance effectiveness and efficiency, targeted at wider and scalable reach regionally. The LMS has tools for monitoring and evaluation for content uptake, and it allows for public awareness and communication management in active participation of targeted stakeholders. All the capacity building programs can be accessed through the LMS by the stakeholders at a pocket-friendly cost.